Everybody can go. Anyway. This is a public meeting of the Berlin Conservation Commission occurring via Zoom webinar on January 20th, 2021, starting about 7 p.m. As a preliminary matter, please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other participants may be able to see you. Take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. So confirming member access, this is John Aney, Chair of the Berlin Conservation Commission. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me prior to calling the meeting to order. So just say aye when I call your name. Walter Bickford.
Aye.
Liz DiChiara.
Aye.
Louise Janda.
Aye.
Robin Berry.
Aye.
And Holly Kennedy DeGrudela.
Aye.
Hi, Holly. Steve Beard, I believe, has not joined us yet, and Carolyn McDonald is excused from the meeting. So there's a number of anticipated speakers that may be joining us, including Paul Anderson and Shikon concerning the trails issue.
Aye. Aye. And aye.
Was that you, Steve?
That's me. I signed in, but
Nice.
somehow my voice didn't work, so I signed in again. It worked.
Good, Steve.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, Steve Beard said hi. Stephen Slode from regarding the Stoddard conservation restriction, and then Keith Burham and John Rockwood at some point will be joining us for concerning 64 Banner Road. So with a quorum of the Commission President, I call this meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. on Wednesday, January 20th, 2021. All right, introduction to remote meeting. This open meeting of the Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to this current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. Specific information in the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Berlin website at www.townofberlin.com. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of the public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, provided reasonable public access is afforded so the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. While no in-person attendance of members of the public is permitted, every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. The standard public comment portion of this meeting will accommodate limited public comment. For this meeting, the Conservation Commission is convening using the Zoom platform as posted on the agenda, identifying how the public may join. The public is encouraged to follow along during this meeting using the posted agenda. Also, supporting materials will be screen shared during the meeting. Ground rules, commission members and speakers on the agenda, please remember to request recognition before speaking, and please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Public comment portion of the agenda, to the extent that our technical capability allows, public comment will be permitted during the public comment portion of this meeting as follows. Attendees' phones and other devices will be muted unless and until they raise their hand and are recognized by me to speak. I ask each member of the public who wishes to speak to identify their name, and I will afford each speaker time to ask a question or make a brief comment. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. And that's that.
But I hear there's a rule coming down. They're not supposed to talk to people who travel down south trying to stay out of the cold.
That's fair. Actually.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
I think they're going to actually probably withdraw their visas.
Mm.
They're going to confiscate the passport.
Ah.
I had lunch on the
Well,
beach.
I'm in
you
Florida
guys.
too. I'm in Florida too, and it's awesome here. I have to say.
Oh, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
great.
thanks
Yeah,
for,
thanks.
yeah.
Need to boot them both
All
up.
right. Mute the people in warm weather. All right.
Yes.
Minutes. I'm going to read the minutes now. All right, and I'll screen share them, blah, blah, blah. There we go.
Gee, you're becoming a computer whiz at this.
That's a bit of a stretch. Meeting opened at 7:10. John opened the meeting by stating that it was being recorded and explained the reasons for the meeting being held remotely on Zoom. By the executive order of Governor Baker, due to COVID-19, the town offices are closed to the public. John reviewed the rules for holding the remote meeting. A roll call vote attendance was taken with the following results. John here, Walter here, Steve here, Liz here, Carolyn here, Louise here, Robin here. Other attendees were Holly Kennedy DeGrudela, Associate Voting Member here, Steve Sears, David Ross Associates, Peg Stone, Berlin Select Board Member, Gene Crouch of VHB, Matt Oates of Benderson Development Companies, blah, blah, Wayne Amico of related to Highland Commons, Alex Pera, attorney for Homestead Highland Ridge, and Joanne Stoll, Benderson Development Company employee. Minutes for the December 16, 2020 reviewed and edited. Liz moved to approve the minutes with edits. Steve seconded the motion, which passed by roll call vote with the following results. John, I, Carolyn, I, Liz, I, Walter, I, Louise, I, Steve, I, Robin, I. Treasury report, funds available as of December 31st, 2020, annual budget, 85829. Wetlands fund, $10,897.58. Open space, $635.62. No bills or forms. Mail notices, Solomon Pond Mall check. John reported that the mitigation check from Solomon Pond Mall was not received in 2020. The town accountant, town treasurer, and town administrator are working along with John to resolve the issue. DEP email, Marlborough Road, DEP 1070254. John reported that on the email exchange on the Marlborough Road issue. An email from Kyle McKenzie of Deschamps Dillis, engineer for the project, informed the Concom, actually the DEP, sorry. We were CC'd. It says they plan to use the original plans that did not infringe on the 25-foot no-touch policy of the Concom. Judy Schmidt of DEP is reviewing the original plans. No decision is made yet by DEP. Wetlands, Highland Ridge, DEP 1070241. John reported that Brett Connor continues to monitor the Homestead Highland Ridge development and found no issues in the latest site visit. Number 2, 100 River Road West, an email from Dave Burke, who has been working with WD Landscaping, the property owners, and Denise Child of DEP, informed the Concom of the progress on the wetland violation of 100 River Road West. Dave has worked with the owners to contact Beals and Thomas of North Road to set up a site visit with an engineer on Thursday, January 7th, 2021 at 2:30. Walter agreed to go to the site visit. 32 Allen Road's wetland issue. Walter and Carolyn will meet with the owner of the property at 13 Allen Road at 3:30 on January 7th to consult on how to resolve the violation. Appointment, 7:30, Homestead Highland Ridge, Conservation Restriction Attorney Para. Alex Perry, representing the developers of Homestead Highland Ridge, reviewed the changes to the CR that the Concom requested, including clarification of public access provision. The site plan was drawn to more clearly indicate where the drainage easement on Lot B is located. The CR did not contain any language to indicate the need for conservation monitors. Alex agreed to include language for a conservation monitoring agreement in the draft. The Concom would propose that the developers contract with SVT as conservation monitors. Developers agreed to SVT's proposal for an upfront payment to cover the CM payments for the foreseeable future. Attorney Paris suggested instead an annual payment by the Homeowners Association. Carolyn asked how enforcement of the TR monitoring would take place. She felt that the terms of the upfront payment would protect the enforcement of the TR monitoring. Attorney Paris then asked if payments could be made in installments. It was agreed that John would contact SVT about the discussion, that Alex would include the Concom request in an updated draft. An agreement was not reached on how to fund the conservation monitoring. Number 2, 8 p.m. request for determination of applicability, 39 Walnut Street, Steve Sears of Ross Associates representing the owners. Dennis and Lori Fairway of 39 Walnut Street represented plans for the replacement of a failed septic system. The plans dated November 2020, L-14149 were drawn by Ross Associates at 6 Lancaster County Road of Harvard, Mass. 01451. The new septic system would be within 75 feet of the bordering vegetated wetlands, which is an improvement over the old system, which is only 35 to 45 feet from the BVW. Plans showed erosion controls would consist of straw wattles and embedded silt fence. Steve's here to agree to notify the Concom when the erosion controls are in place, at which time the Concom would do a site visit to verify the controls are adequate. After reviewing the regulations, the Concom determined an NOI was not necessary. We'll have to move to issue a negative determination of applicability. Carolyn seconded the motion, which passed by unanimous roll call vote. 830, certificate of compliance, Highland Commons, DPs 107-0195 and 107-0202. Gene Crouch, environmental scientist for VHB. Wayne Amico, project manager for Vanessa Hangen. Anyway, Matt Oates, civil engineer at Benderson Development Company. Gene reviewed the work that had been done to meet the OOC conditions. Carolyn had done the site visit on December 31st. Carolyn displayed the photos of the previous conditions of the site and photos of the present conditions showing vegetation that had grown in. Wayne displayed the plans for the site showing more details of what had been done to correct the problems at the site. The photos taken in July 2020 showed the type of vegetation that had been planted on the site and how well it was growing. This is moved to issue COCs for both 107-0195 and 107-0202. Robin seconded the motion, which passed by unanimous roll call vote. Matt Oates stated they needed an original copy of the OC for 107-0195 since it had never been recorded on the deed. The Concom was assured that Highland Commons would continue to maintain the site after the COCs were issued. Your business annual report. The annual report was reviewed and finalized by the Concom members. 2 Community Preservation Committee report. Carolyn reported the committee was working on writing a community preservation plan. She and Julie Lee of the Recreation Commission are working together on the conservation and recreation part of the plan. Well, business 64 Banner Road. John Walker will do a site visit to determine how wetland issue will be handled. 2 website training, January 14th, 12 to 4. I noted that it would be recorded and available online. Bridge Road, no update. Wetland bylaw. Carolyn reported on a meeting that she and John had with Tim Wheeler of the planning board. John will begin attending meetings of other boards. Pan Am. Robin will continue to work with Pan Am representatives. She will inform them that any agreement with it will be contingent on town meeting approval. She's also writing a grant request from the state to fund purchase for property. Investigating. I hate it when that happens. She's also researching other funding opportunities. Plastic bag ban. Peg Stone of the select board reported the board had issued a one-time extension from January 1st, 2021 to July 1st, 2021 to allow borough and business to use up their supply of bags. The Concom agreed with the decision of the select board. Not sure we had a choice. But, land acquisition, no discussion. Land management. John reported they'd done some trail clearing. Dan Simpson of SVT will also be doing some clearing at 40 Ks. Community outreach, no discussion or action. Robin moved to adjourn the meeting. Steve seconded the motion, which passed by unanimous roll call vote. Meeting ended at 9:18 p.m. Minutes recorded by Louise, Shonda, and John Amy. Comments, thoughts?
Question, can you describe Pan Am? All I think of is Pan American Airlines. Who are they again?
They own
That's
the
the
rail
railroad.
bed. It's a railroad. They own the rail bed that
Okay.
west and then northwest of Coben Road.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I'd move to accept the minutes as corrected.
Second.
All right.
Third.
So roll call vote. John, I. Louise. Louise.
Wake up, Louise. You're muted. You're muted. We can't hear you.
Okay, aye.
Good. Oh,
Walter.
aye.
Liz.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Robin.
Aye.
Okay. All right. What do we got next? What time is it? 7:15.
Nighttime.
Bills and forms. All right. This is the most important part of the meeting.
Uh-oh, he wants a reimbursement. Oh, no.
Yeah. There she is, $19.
Wow.
I know.
Oh,
I move we pay it.
To who?
Me?
So Walter moves that we reimburse John for his dedicated efforts to mail stuff. Is there a
Oh,
second?
Second.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? I'll abstain. Louise,
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
Robin,
Aye.
Steve, your vote doesn't matter anymore.
I know. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. Aye.
All right, that's an aye. Okay, good.
So John, is that just getting paid out of our regular budget or is that coming out of
Yeah.
wetlands or? Okay,
Regular budget.
okay.
And I'll need everybody's signatures because I can't sign off on myself. So whenever there'll be other stuff to sign, I'll just get it signed then.
Okay.
Okay.
You don't get interest, so we can wait.
Yeah, I get, yes, it's only 19 bucks. Next, mail. So there is a right of first refusal that
Mhm.
I thought we had acted on. Let me screen share.
You talk about Lyman Road?
Yeah.
There are a couple of lots up there, John. Maybe it was the first one you're thinking of.
Well, yeah, it's one of the Webco ones. Let me just scroll right down to the map.
Yeah, it's way out there. It's by the Piskin parking lot.
Yeah, it's at the very edge.
You know, we're not gonna buy a house lot anyway. Why don't we just vote to pass over it?
Yeah, so the thing is, does everyone? Let me share because what I actually did, I brought up the Berlin plot. Here, let me share this one instead. So yeah, it's 17.6 and 1. Yeah, it's these two right here. I thought we'd already voted on them, but maybe it was this one we voted on. I don't know. But at any rate, this is what's now we're being asked to ask on, within 120 days. But I just got the email today. And again, yeah, so this is the Pittsburgh Park. This is the parking lot down there, and whatnot.
It can't be.
It's these two right here.
John, this one here's that one, the lower one has a house on it. It's been built on a long time. Wait a minute, maybe no, because that's
What?
online.
It's a conservation restriction, so it's really a right of first refusal.
Oh, I see. The house is on that on 17.3 or 17, whatever it is.
That's 17.1. That's 17.6.
17.1, I guess, is the one with the house on it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then 17.6. Anyway, it's these two together that are the properties in question, and I can't imagine we have any interest in buying them.
No.
No.
Okay. So entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Selectmen that we
Waive first right of refusal.
waive, thank you, Steve,
Yep.
waive first right of refusal. So that, did you just motion that,
Motion,
Steve?
Social moved, yes.
Motion moving.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion?
Second.
Third,
Walter got second. All right. Roll call vote. John, I, Robin,
Aye.
Louise,
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
Steve.
aye, but I have to accept my own emotion?
Of course you do.
Oh, okay.
We're voting.
I know, I'm voting on my own motion.
Yeah, of course you are.
Conflict of interest.
No, it isn't. It
No?
would be a conflict of interest if you own this property.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, even though I made the motion and I agree to it. I agree to what I say?
Do you own the property?
No.
All right, then be quiet.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, you said you had him shut out tonight.
Good try.
Okay. Next up, moving right along, Highland wetlands issues, Highland Ridge, DEP 107-0241. Let me just pull up. I just want to say that I give these guys some kudos compared to what we went through with the solar farm. So, like, it rained like stink over 2 days, almost 2 inches of rain. Erosion control's throughout site remain intact and functional. Lower basin retained approximately 6% of unused capacity, very little erosion related scouring reserves. Site remains stable. And he has some suggestions for digging out the silt and stuff. But they've done a good job, you know?
Hmm.
You know, given what we went through, you know, there's just really, you know, other than degraded wattles, there really haven't been many troubles. All right, so that's that. And also on wetlands, Hunter River Road West, I don't have an update. Now, Walter, did you go to that site visit on the 7th?
Yeah, Dave Burke was there and he met, I forget what the engineering firm was, but there's somebody there. He worked for that engineering firm once, and there's a friend of him there, and he's trying to get that firm to take over the, helping the owners of that property develop a plan to clean it up. I left before they came to a conclusion, so I don't know whether that firm will do it or not. In other words, that's not very much information.
It's all right. Dave has not contacted me, and I frankly forgot to email him today. But he, you know, usually, like, I get sporadic emails from him. Usually it goes to my personal email. All right, so we don't really have an update there. Now, Walter, do you want to talk about 32 Allen?
Yeah, you know, I wish I knew how to send a copy email so you would have all had one in front of you. But anyway, Carolyn and I visited the site, and she basically agreed with me. Actually, I got the impression she was a little stronger on it than I was. So I'm dealing with the owner, Elizio, one-on-one. And he's got the plan on what needs to be done. He agrees with it. And I told him that he can't put anything within 100 feet of that stream, although it's an intermittent stream. So he needs to come through us with unless he, you know, wherever he's going to put it, if it's anywhere within 100 feet of that stream, he's got to come before us. But otherwise, if he's hauling it off site or putting it way up in another corner away from there, if it's at least 100 feet away, you know, I guess you can just go ahead and do it. The stream on the inland side of it is basically all highland because over the years they filled right up to it, and there's no wetlands on that side of it. So if he gets up 100 feet away from the stream and up in that area, I guess that's where he wants to put it. There's a lot of leaves and brush and stumps and chunks of wood and that type of stuff. I told him when I spoke to him earlier this evening that, you know, there's no big rush on this, and I discussed with you guys and see what you think. If we want to have an official letter to him saying that, and that's why I wish I had the plan to you, so you see what was going on. Say basically you agree with that plan. He has to remove it and cannot place it within, well, he can place it within 20 feet if he's on the inland side of it. But that's as vague and as clear as I can make it right now. That's basically where we are.
So you have a plan? You seen a plan?
We drew it up. He and I drew it up. Carolyn looked at it, reviewed it, and then Carolyn and I remeasured everything when we were there, and she agreed with it. The decision was, I think you agree, Steve, that this just kind of handle it informally. We don't need to go to a whole NOI and all that other stuff.
I understand that part, but we should see a plan. So we should have some plan and some dates. Otherwise.
Okay, well, I mean, that's certainly reasonable. I will make darn sure I can, well, I called Carolyn and asked her if she would email it to you, but she said she didn't have it. I thought I gave her a copy that day, but I'll get the copy to someone who's capable of
Me. Yeah, me.
Yeah.
all of you.
Yeah.
Ask your granddaughter to scan it and email it to me.
Thank you.
Oh.
And then I'll distribute it, and we can talk about it again next week.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. Oh, Robin, before I forget, I didn't fully understand about those town accountant sheets. Can I just sign them?
Yeah, I think they're fine. I've just got to shake out with June. What I'm confused about is that general revenue fund. Like there was, from what Carol sent me, there was only one. And actually, I don't even think it was on the spreadsheet that she had. I added it in because it was in one of the last sets of those forms that June sent. So I don't know if it's a new fund, this general revenue fund. Are you familiar? Do you know? Because
No.
she's what?
I have no idea, because usually all NOI funds and other things like that go into the wetland fund.
Well, so that's what I thought. So she's telling me that that's what this general revenue fund is for. So I think it's new. So I'd forgotten to ask her that, and so I did send that today. So I've got
Yeah,
to
that's
find that
news
out.
to me.
Mhm.
And so, and I saw you sent me a link to so we can share the documents just so I can kind of keep up with, like, 'cause I think some of those NOI funds fell under the radar and I didn't know what was what, and I didn't have them in my spreadsheet. So,
Well, I mean, this is all just COVID stuff, because it used to be that I would, we would hand the check
Yeah.
to Carol, and then,
Yeah.
so we're all sitting around a table. But I'll
Yeah,
try to
so-
be diligent about that Google file. About
okay, that sounds good. And that way I can do a better job of keeping track of some of that stuff that I think got
Yeah.
missed over the last couple months.
Yeah. So, I mean, no checks have come in recently because it's not a time of year where people tend to file NOIs, but
Yeah, so I think that's what that fund is for. So,
that doesn't make
So-
any sense, because that's what the wetland fund's for.
well, that's what I thought too. So that's why
The
I
wetland
need.
fund is entirely made up of that kind of stuff.
That's what I thought. So I've got to respond to that email, but I wanted to ask you first what you knew about it.
Ditto, nada. I know nada.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so I won't sign it yet till you figure that out. I can hold it.
So
I can hold those papers hostage.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, other than that, everything else lines up. That's the only one that I am not clear on. So the other ones
Okay.
are fine, but
Cool. All right.
if she's not pushing on you to sign them, then I'll see if I can figure that out the next day or so.
I think she's been very busy with other stuff lately.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, Robin, do we have Paul Anderson and Ann Sean in the audience?
Paul is here, so I can promote him.
Yeah. He'd email again. Oh, I'm sorry. Alex Perrick canceled on me this morning.
Okay.
So that was our 7:30 appointment. And then Paul Anderson emailed me this morning about some trail thing. I have really no idea what it's about, but I figured I'd just put him in at 7:30.
Can you guys hear me and see me?
Yeah.
Hi, Walter. Hi, folks.
Hi.
Can I share? Well, so my question is basically, we've been spending, not surprisingly, during COVID days, lots of time on trails, lots of time in Pisgah, but elsewhere as well. And some of the places we've been on have fallen trees. And I know somebody's taking care of some of those along Pisgah, but along the other ones, nobody's taking care of those. And so just to make it easier to get around, that was my first question. And I can show you some of the places that we've been walking. And then the other question is, some of these places are not on any trail map that we've got right now, at least the town has, as far as I know, and trying to figure out whether those are under conservation's purview, and are you taking care of them? Do you even know about them? I suspect Walter knows about them because he's walked almost all the woods around here, but there are others. So
the unmarked trails, are you referring to on Pisgah?
they are not on Pisgah. They are, for example, there's Morse Woods, there's the Bonazzoli land adjoining Morse Woods, sort of between Lyman and Crosby Roads. I can show you a map if you want. And I was trying to figure out who's taking care of those, because they're actually marked as blue trails, and they've been pretty well kept over the last 5 years, it looks like.
Be careful, Paul. I'm going to promote you to be in charge of this.
Well, I have questions about, how do we do this? So is it possible for me to share a screen? Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to share this. Can you see this now?
Yes.
All right. So this is Morse Woods, right? And so this trail along here in red we've been walking this a bunch. This is marked and used to be well traveled, because Ann and I used to ride our horses through here. And it's still very well marked, except for a set of trees that came down probably last summer. And it's really pretty hard to get around them. You can walk around them. And then this blue circle in the Bonazzoli land, that's unbelievably well marked and well kept. And I was wondering whether you guys are doing that.
I'm
Northbrook
not-
people do it.
Say again, Walter?
It's Northbrook, folks. There's a lot of houses right on the Northbrook side of the boundary, and those people. are
Yes.
a bit.
So
Yeah, we're
they're
not
doing it,
doing it.
Walter. Right,
Yeah,
but
we're-
it's beautiful. You know, it's being well kept, and there's a vernal pool up here that if you guys know about, it's very
Is it
pretty.
a certified vernal pool?
I
Not
don't
yet.
know what, it's not, right, Walter?
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, you guys, somebody could certify it this spring.
We should, because it's been, you know, it's been there for, ever since I've been in Berlin, and nobody's gonna bother it. It's wonderfully isolated on top of the hill. And so there are a couple of big trees down, and I was trying to figure out these came down in December, and they're huge, and they brought down a stone wall and stuff, but who takes care of those? And
Volunteers do.
who does, Walter?
Volunteers.
Oh, okay, so you're saying I could volunteer to clear that tree so we
Well,
can
I'm
get
saying
through.
we don't want to hear it. You go out there and cut your leg. We haven't given you permission to do it.
There you go, right, yeah,
So, Paul, let me be a little more organized about this.
Okay.
In recent years, it's mostly been Walter and I. And
Okay.
then sometimes other people will do that too. And sometimes I don't even know who these people are.
Right.
So, you know, there is, what Walter's referring to is some of the legal consequences of this.
right,
I have been thinking that it would be great to get a trail committee together the way Northborough does.
Mhm.
Northborough has a trails committee. And I think, you know, it would be nice if we could get one together too, people that are interested in sort of splitting up some of the work, and both keeping an eye on trails and maintaining the trails.
right,
So if you're interested, because I'm interested, I think Holly's interested, and I met some guy up on Pisgah who's interested named Joe. So, you know, if you know any other people, it would be good to get like at least a half a dozen, just to divide,
Okay.
you know, 8 to 10 people, just to divide the work.
Mhm.
You know, once we get formal, I will have to figure out about the legal ramifications, like in case somebody cuts their leg off. But, you know, but yeah, it'd be great. I've only once been up on Morse Woods, and I haven't and it hasn't been recently. So I never go up there. I'm on Pisgah a lot, and and I'm the one that cleared up around Horseshoe Pond there the other day.
Okay. Okay, so we noticed that. We also noticed, sadly, some graffiti on this when we were walking. Oh, it's just off the trail up in here. Somebody spray painted some red on a rock and on a tree, which is too bad.
That's too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, just as you walk up the red trail from the parking area. That happened in the last couple, 3 weeks. And then, well, on Morse Woods, we walked that today, actually, trying to figure out where this trail goes. And there's a blue trail here, and then it disappears, but there's also blue markings down here. So
yeah, I
clearly
vaguely
used
remember
to
that
be.
from when I was up there a few years ago. I don't know.
Yeah. I will say the other question, and this is a very selfish question, is can we at some point create a trail that connects this blue to here, to the parking for Pisgah on Lyman? Because then I could walk from my house pretty much through Morse Woods and stuff straight up to Pisgah, which would be great.
Maybe. I mean, I think the big challenge there is the wetlands and the brush.
Right. Yep.
So it's a pretty mucky area, so we'd have to sort of get a good look at it.
Right.
It's a lot of work making a trail.
It is.
But you're right. That would actually be a nice place for a trail.
Yeah, and there's also this very narrow piece that we got when this land was developed. This is a beautiful walk through here across this stream that goes along there. So that's also very pretty, but it's quite narrow. So you'd have to be careful to make sure you're on town property.
Right. Holly and Marcus could help us with that potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love to do that kind of stuff with our GPS.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
They have
Yeah.
a very, very fancy GPS thingy.
That's great.
Very
Well,
cool.
so from that point of view, if you want to, I mean, I'm partially retired now, so happy to help try to keep trails clear, because we walk most of Pisgah trails at least once a week, maybe a couple times, 3 times a week even, but early in the morning generally, before anybody else is out there,
Great.
except for the deer.
By the
No,
way,
Walter will get the deer.
Yeah.
go up a little bit on your map there, right there. See the W on Woods,
Yep.
right where the W goes down, up in the middle, then down again, where that second down is the Bob Duran, former Secretary of Environmental Affairs in the state and our state senator. killed a nice white-tailed deer there a little while ago.
Want to go? Okay.
I
We
want
saw folks,
to know
they
that.
were parking in here, so we heard some shots and stuff. So we saw blood on the snow coming down the trail. So we figured
yeah,
somebody
that was
got it
it.
there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Paul, do you know anybody else who's interested?
My wife would be interested some, but not with the chainsaw and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah, like people that, grunts that can lift things.
right. I would have to ask around. I do not know of anybody else right now.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm sitting there listening, and I hear you, Paul, but if you want that, I know what trees you're talking about. I grab my saw and go over there and zip that up in about 15 minutes and get rid of that. I'm really kind of reluctant about this trail committee group. They start looking for things to do when there isn't anything to do. All the trails in this town, as far as I'm concerned, unless a tree falls across it,
Right.
they're in great shape. There's bridges over streams, there's bridges along Mudway. By the way, that's a nice bridge you built up off Lancaster, John. And I like the trail too. It's rather simple.
Mhm.
Just a little few red marks. It's wild. And before we get into any other trail building, and by the way, some of the trails that aren't marked, I'd like to take a look at those too and block them off. There's some rogue trails through some pretty sensitive areas. The National Park Service and the Fish and Wildlife Service and the U.S. Forest Service, they all zone their properties like wilderness, some commercial use, some recreational use. And before we start any more trails and stuff, I think the commission really ought to look seriously at doing some zoning and try to find, and it's going to be difficult at this point with all the traveling going on in it, some wilderness areas, like I'm thinking down at Rack Meadow on the Boylston line in that area. It may be designated wilderness. Leave it alone, except for the existing trails that are through there. But anyway, that's just.
No, Walter,
By the way,
actually,
was it Sunday? When do we have the rainstorm? Saturday. So Sunday, I came down and Lancaster Road, whatever day it was that I told you, John, I was going up there. There were a bunch of cars on Lancaster Road, and then as I headed back towards town, there were a couple of cars on that next parking area on Lancaster Road. Then I went down to through the Five Corners. There were a bunch of cars there. Just for the heck of it, I went up a Barnes Hill and came down Linden Street. There were more cars in the Divine Field than I had ever seen. I mean, it was like 5 cars. But when you get down by Denny Bartlett's, there were 15 cars lining the road. Then down by the brick house, there were 7 cars and people all around. And then I didn't go over by Brewerbrook in Berlin, but there's usually a lot of people there. I'll bet you there were easily probably 35, 40 cars parked along using the trails. So the trails are well used. And I just do not go out of our way to promote them and make it any easier until we've sat back and started taking a look at our lands and analyzing.
Walter, can I summarize here for a sec before we spend too much, because we have a lot of other things to get to.
Okay, should have raised your hand, but
I'm the chair. I don't have to.
Oh, that's right.
Number one, I am in agreement with you that we really want to be very thoughtful about any new trails that we create. I'm not generally in favor of new trails, and certainly don't want to make a bunch of spaghetti trails all over the place. I think, Paul's point here is worth looking at, but in general, I agree with you. I don't want any more new trails. Secondly, though, there actually, there is a fair amount of trail work to do. I have spent a lot of time cutting up trees, but I wouldn't mind a hand doing it. And there are also areas where there's erosion and some other mucky stuff that needs crossing with border locks. So I don't think it's a bad idea to have a group of people that helps with maintenance of existing trails, and also helping out with stuff like the spray paint. Like we did a couple of years ago when we went up there and scraped off that spray paint on 40 Ks. So, you know, I think it's a good idea to have somebody that, a group of people that just sort of keep an eye on things. Anyway, so Paul, I'll try to set something up, and if you can think of other people, you know, that a couple other people that'd be interested, that'd be great.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
And can I just say one other thing to Walter's point? Because I do agree. For example, some of these trees, well, if my wife was here, one of the things she wanted to bring up was bicycle use and how they're tearing up the trails when it's muddy and all that kind of stuff, whether it's possible. I don't know how you enforce it, but you know, when things are muddy, the bikes go through it and they tear up the trail. So Walter, to your point, and cutting up trees, maybe you cut trees so you can step over them, but the bike has to be carried over or whatever. I don't know. But she's tired of all the mud and seeing how the bikes tear up the Pisgah trails when it's muddy, like whether there's a season they can't be on there or something like that. I don't know how you enforce it though.
The bicyclists are a big problem.
They are.
wrong and
Uh,
in trouble.
Would that be
Alright.
you, John?
yeah, that would be, that would be me, Paul.
Oh, okay. Well,
But not, I don't actually, I don't go up,
telling
I don't go up there this time of year because of the mud. A lot of
Exactly.
bikers don't go up there this time of year.
Right.
But there's a bunch of kids that live in Northborough and stuff that do anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
okay, I want to wrap this up for now, but
All right,
Paul, I
okay.
think this is great. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Reach out to me. I'll stop sharing. All right.
All
I'll
right.
hang up then.
Call me up, we'll go take a walk.
All right. Yeah. Let's get rid of a couple of those trees so they don't have to, you know, step over things or all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
all right.
Thanks, Walter.
All righty.
Okay.
Bye, y'all. Thank you
Bye,
very
Paul.
much.
See
Oh,
later.
thank you.
Bye.
Robin, are Keith and John in the audience?
Nope, Steve Sloan is here though.
All right. Well, given that this is not a public hearing, we could start early.
Okay, let me promote him.
Can I get promoted?
No, definitely not.
Yes. Yes, you
Right out the
can.
door.
Yeah. We'll feed you now. How's that for a promotion?
Ooh, wow. All right.
Can folks hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Had to relocate. I've got a piano lesson going on downstairs, so apologize for that. So did you all get copies of the conservation restriction that's being considered
Yes.
here?
Yes,
What's-
we did not receive the baseline report, but we received the conservation restriction.
Okay. Would you typically want to see the baseline report or?
Yes.
Okay. So I can certainly have that sent to you, and you know, if there's an interest in doing a site walk as well, then that could certainly be arranged. So at
Walter
this,
probably has already been there.
about the
Lost you.
90 acres of the property, there's essentially, sorry.
You faded out for a minute.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So we're protecting 19 acres of the property. There is an exclusion area around the residence and then a building envelope. So the building envelope is governed by the restriction. The exclusion area is entirely excluded. So that just gives a little more freedom around the house itself. It's a fairly typical restriction. It does allow for some agricultural use. It does also allow for forestry and trails and the like. There's a provision within the building envelope that would allow for relatively large structure related to most likely equestrian use. And so that's one thing just to.
I would like to talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Yep.
Okay, because if you're going to put a building on it and it's on CR land, you're probably saying, okay, you don't need to put footings in or anything, right? We've been down this path before. I just want to give you a heads up that I believe once you try to get a building put up, they're going to force you to put pylons in, which is, you know, a building code.
Yep. So we have there are two provisions which we may be confusing. So within the building envelope, the structure that's would be permitted would be a full structure. There's a second provision though allowing for agricultural temporary structures is what we're calling them. such as greenhouses. And so in my experience, those have tended not to have, these wouldn't be glass framed greenhouses. These would be more like hoop houses. So, you know, the hoops kind of fit into piping in the ground.
Well, Stephen?
Yeah.
As opposed to Steve. And Steve, Carolyn had the same concern, actually.
Okay.
Carolyn wasn't able to be here, but she actually spoke with me and then wrote up her thoughts. There was another CR, what Steve is referring to, there was a CR that the commission dealt with a few years back, where there had been some provision for temporary structure, but then they wanted, as part of an agricultural outfit, to put up a building to sell agricultural produce.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it was an issue because the building instructor would not allow this to happen under the guise of a temporary structure. It had to have footings and ended up with electricity and water and stuff like that. So the big question is, so this agricultural structure, I mean, so this is a farm-like place. It sounds like it's mostly devoted to horses at this point, but you mentioned other agricultural uses or fruit trees, nuts and stuff like that. If they intend to have some sort of a farm stand or farm structure where they sell stuff, the building inspector may not allow a temporary structure. But just so we're clear from the get-go about this.
Yeah, and that's great. I think I can certainly relate that to the Stoddards. They have a lot of flexibility within the building envelope, and so
yeah,
the purpose, from my perspective, of the temporary structure provision is to provide flexibility if there's a need for something like a run-in shelter, in a certain location within the field. Those I'm assuming that there wouldn't be a building code requiring substantial foundations for a run-in shelter of that kind. But
you mean for horses and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, can I just add, this is Holly. Oh, really quick, I'll explain what, nope.
Walter, I see you. Let Holly finish, and I'll get back to you, Walter. Thank you. Go ahead, Holly.
So their intent was, let's say for me, when I bought our property across the street from them, one of the things, if you have horses in New England, you want to ride, you have to have an indoor riding arena. That's how I looked at it. So my thing was I wanted indoor. So when they asked me about my indoor, that's what they wanted to put in their CR, so that if somebody comes to buy the property, they want to put horses on it, they would like to have the opportunity to build an indoor arena. So that's where that's going.
Right. So, Holly, that's what falls under the building envelope provision of the conservation restriction, which is separate from the temporary agricultural thing that Steve and Carolyn and I were worried about. So there's actually two separate. You can think of the property is divided into three zones. There's the housing zone, which is just not part of the CR, it's excluded. There's the building envelope which is part of the CR, but they want to be able to build up a house, the horse barn and stuff, and that would allow for this, footings and electricity and stuff. And then there's the agricultural things, which are temporary without footings. And what Steve and Carolyn were concerned about is that somebody may want to put up a store at the end of the drive to sell stuff. Maybe somebody later turns it into a peach farm or something. And that could be a problem, with a temporary structure, if they try to do something too elaborate. Because the building inspector wouldn't allow that. I mean, I suppose they could just put up any old cart and sell peaches like people do. But anyway, that, they just wanted to make sure that if the owners or any foreseeable purchasers want to set up like a small agricultural business at the end of the driveway, that temporary structure thing's not going to fly.
Don't get us wrong. We want to promote the farming. We actually want to promote the farming big time. It might be easier. I don't know what the status. I mean, I know there's a CR or what the status is, but I don't know if the CR could be amended or whatever. I don't know how old it is and everything else, but if you could have that building just outside the CR, like the house, that would be perfect.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Walter.
In the, of course, the building envelope includes the house and the existing barn, which is a beautiful barn. They're nice structures, all of them. And then
No, Walter, it doesn't. The building envelope, the existing house is in the exclusion area.
oh, excuse me, my terminology. Well, the building envelope, they can put structures in there with foundations and so forth, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then the rest of it, you know, just put, I mean, this business about a fruit stand and all that stuff is, you know, really dreaming. It isn't gonna happen on 17 acres of land. I wouldn't worry about it. And if they want to put up a greenhouse, and I've been helping Indian Head Farm put one up, you know, you drive pipes in the ground with a sledgehammer and put the pipes over it in the plastic, and there's your greenhouses today. So that shouldn't be a problem. If you want to pour a concrete footing, I mean, there's never going to be a store there. There might be a little portable stand beside the road. Somebody want to sell squash and turnips or something, but I wouldn't worry about it. We don't want to allow structures on that that require a footing on the CR land.
I'm more with Steve on this one, which is we want to promote agriculture. But yeah, I think Steve's point and Carolyn's point is, you know, the way it's written, nobody's going to be putting up any kind of, you know, building at the end of the driveway to sell stuff. That's just not the way it's written. That's probably not going to happen. The other point that Walter raised, which I have issues with, is that turnips aren't really food.
Thank you.
All right. Anyway, so Steve, what else do you have to say? Steven.
Yeah, so I appreciate that feedback. So I will circle back with them. I think, you know, they have thought about the restriction over a fairly long period of time. They are using the land tax credit program. So this restriction has been in various draft forms over about a 2.5-year period. I think they're looking at this more or less as final. We do have the state approval on the form of the document that you've seen this evening. So, but you know, I'll just make sure they understand that clearly, and you know what the limitations of the current.
Yeah, and again, and my feeling is they're as old as I am, so you know, another 20 years, somebody else is going to own that place, and I'm not worried about somebody going in there and not being able to do something agriculture as much as I am someone going in there with other plans that, you know, slide something in, and we've had that happen to us in a number of places. So I think a good strong CR to prevent that type of thing is what's important, and it looks pretty good to me, as a matter of fact.
Good. Stephen, you faded out at the end again there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's the piano.
Well, the problem.
See, it's the piano.
My section is also where the piano is located. Me now?
No.
Am I still faded?
Yep.
Yep.
I'm going to relocate. Hold on. I'm going to go to one more location here. So just bear with me.
All right.
Sorry to put you all through this, but we'll try one room in here. Is that any better?
You're coming clear through now. Yep.
Oh, yep. Perfect. Good. Sorry. So where did I cut out?
I don't know. You cut out. It was towards the very end. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe my question is, you know, we would like to move ahead with signatures. Normally, I would ask the commission to consider the conservation values of the property and this restriction. If they're comfortable signing the municipal certificate, great. If you have additional questions, we can address those. It sounds like my document before that, so I can certainly provide you copies of that if you would like, and then you know, come back at another time for the signature if you'd prefer that.
Couple things. First of all, how is their well? Where is the well located?
That's a great question. I think, let me just get this out here. Normally what I would do is allow for, you know, the relocation of the well. I'm just trying to remember which provision is under. Four. Yeah, so you know, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sort of.
Great. So I don't know where the current well is located. I do know that our drafting has a preference for it being located either within the existing exclusion area or in the building envelope. And if they can demonstrate it's not practical to do that, then they would have permission to put the well elsewhere in the property.
Are they having problems with their well? Do you have any idea?
I haven't heard that, no.
Where's their septic?
Let's see. I don't know the current. You know, I have to apologize that I worked with them on this about 2 years ago when we first drafted the document. The waiting line for the compensation tax credit program is so long. I haven't been on the property in 2 years, so I don't have a ready answer for that, but I can find that if you would like.
Well, just curious, because I mean, you know, the part of the conservation has to do with like redoing the you know, replacing the septic or, you know, digging the well.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how well the septic is functioning?
I don't know that, no. I don't know what the age of the system is, and whether it's likely that it would pass Title V or not based on that.
And now they take good care of it. They get it pumped every few years. They haven't ever had an issue. I can ask them. I'm going to try and call them if you want.
You know, here's a you know, a sort of bare bones plot plan. I'm screen sharing now. You can see the house. So the septic must be somewhere around this area.
That would be my guess, certainly.
But the wells, but if the septic's here, the well's up here, septic's here, the well's over here or here. So it's probably within this general area. Do you have any, you know, there's two comments about trails.
Yep.
You know, one is so the maintenance of trails and the other is the public access of trails. Do you have any sense of like where these trails are? You know, is it part of a trail system? Do you know?
There are, oh, go ahead.
There's a cart path behind their property that heads towards Steen's property, you know, Great Oak or Clover Hill, whatever you want to call it, that goes between their, so goes directly behind down the hill, to Steen's. There's a trail there. And then what people do is they come up, because everybody rides through it. So they come up through their property, they go around the outskirts they go behind their house, they go, let's say they're coming from Steen's, they go up the hill, then they go left, they go around their property and down to Randall Road and then go down the road. So that trail is used by a lot of people, a lot of horse people, including me.
They go this way?
They go around behind their house and they
go
follow
right behind the house?
Yep.
Or do they cut through the Muldoon's property?
No, Muldoon's property is pretty much bordered by a stone wall.
Okay, so they take a left there around the house?
Really? Yeah.
Huh.
And
that's pretty close.
We go down.
Oops, sorry.
So that's what everybody does.
And this is the way the restriction's drafted. It is not a restriction where there is an affirmative right of the public to access the property.
Right, they didn't have to be.
Right, there is a provision though that allows for public access by written agreement. So it's essentially preserving that possibility so that the access could be provided for and the trails.
That's fine. I mean, you know, they have full control over whether people access the property or not. That's my understanding of the way these things work. I had emailed Krista Collins at SVT, and she thought this was a pretty standard CR. They'll be the conservation monitors. All right, so in summary, it sounds like the Stoddards like the way it is now. They probably aren't concerned about that permanent building structure thing outside the building zone. We're still missing the baseline report. We don't know where the well and the septic are, but they're probably both close to the house, and it's unlikely that they would have any major impact on most of the conservation restriction. So what are people's thoughts about this? Do we want more time? Do we want Walter to go wander around in the woods there, or do we want to just vote?
I would, I think we would vote to approve it. I mean, second, SVT is pretty competent, and if they review this thing and find it okay, there's no problem. I did a job for Jeff a couple of weeks ago. Some big pines had blown down, so I know the property very well. Killed a deer in there one time a few years back, but
well, Walter, is there any property you haven't killed the deer on?
no.
You killed a deer on my property.
I think we should just approve it, really. Just approve it, move it along. Those people are very competent, and they're very thoughtful, and they're very generous putting a CR on this, and I think we should just approve it.
Okay. What's John's concern about having a septic system that if it had to go over into the CR?
Well, I'm just due diligence, really.
The Stoddards don't care. Why should we?
Okay.
To tearing up the CR, that's it's tearing up the property. But I don't think it would, given the aerial map. Here's the aerial map. Let me screen share.
Okay.
So again, this is the house. So that right down here, that's the house. So that the well and septic's all going to be around here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all. It's a vast area. This is the building envelope where they would put the horse barney thingy.
Okay.
But there's just tons of area that are just going to be left the way it is, which is great.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So another thing though, Stephen, I saw signature spots for where was it? It's for the selectmen, but not for the Conservation Commission. Did I miss that somehow?
No. So you are not a grantee of this restriction.
Right. So we're just basically voting to recommend that the select board sign off on this. Is that correct?
Yeah, in the form of this municipal certificate, which is kind of a construct created by the state to allow a municipality to kind of vet the purpose of the document. A little bit of context without going into too much detail, but Massachusetts is the only state out of all 50 states which has a structure for helping ensure that conservation restrictions have actual conservation merit. And we've heard a lot in the last couple of weeks about the conservation restriction, I think in upstate New York, that Trump put on his property and claimed a huge
I read about that
on.
about 6 months ago. Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of across the country. There are a number of instances of people kind of taking advantage of this kind of conservation easement concept. And in every other state, all 49 other states, those documents are only signed by the grantor and grantee. And there's no one kind of looking over the shoulders on a regular basis saying, well, is this a real restriction that has real merit? So in Massachusetts, there's a process where it's signed by the municipality it's in, and then also the state. And the way that we help ensure there's real merit here is it starts at the Conservation Commission level, because you guys kind of understand resources, and as you've alluded to with Walter, there's actually firsthand knowledge of the property. So that's really the kind of the role here.
Yes, let me screen. This is the municipal certificate. that he's referring to, which was part of the package that I emailed everybody.
Yep.
Yep.
And this is a form, again, that kind of comes from the state that's in their handbook. And I've really kind of just pasted in the conservation values directly from the document. So there's, synergy there between the two.
Okay. So entertain a motion to both sign the municipal certification and to advise the select board that they sign off on this conservation restriction of the starter property.
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so we'll do a roll call vote because that's the way we have to do things. John, aye. Robin,
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Louise,
Aye.
and Liz.
Aye.
There you go. Okay.
Could you just repeat the motion?
Nope, I can't remember. I say it. You're gonna have to listen to the tape. I can't possibly repeat that.
Okay, I
exactly.
will write that down. Listen to tape.
All right. Well, this is really good news, Stephen, because now I have something for them to sign, so they can also sign off on that $20 that I owed.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. We'll sign off on one. I'm not sure about the other.
Well, thank you for that. I will send you the baseline document. It'll probably be a couple weeks before I get on the select board agenda. So if there are any questions relating to what I send you, feel free to reach out in the interim, and we can talk about those.
I'm sure it'll be fine. I just want to have it as part of the record.
Great. Yeah,
So,
very good.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it when I get it.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Stephen.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh,
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
His piano lessons are done.
Piano
Yep.
lessons over. So perfect timing. All right.
Play us a tune.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Good
Bye.
night, Steve. All right. Robin, is there anybody in the audience?
Nope, not yet.
All right. Well, it's whatever. So let me just, we can regurgitate if it comes up. Let me just talk about 64 Banner Road. Okay.
Okay.
So I did a site visit today over there. I was greeted by the owner of the building, Keith Baum, and also, excuse me, John Rockwood from Ecotech. They're, environmental consulting group that I'm familiar with. So 64 Banner Road is sort of behind the DCU building. You cross out of Marlboro back into Berlin. This road, apparently the building was built according to these guys, like back in maybe in the 70s, because it would not be approved nowadays to be built there. It's both sides of the building are within the 200-foot riverfront area. Because you have on the north side, you have North Brook, and then on the, I guess it's the southeast, you have the Aspen River. But the building is there, so what had happened is, we were notified for essentially two reasons. The overt reason is that the owner had been cleaning up the property because there was a bunch of junk and stuff around there, and had ground up some wood chips and then sort of spread them along the edge. And then when the wetland specialist came over, he said, "You did that too close to the wetland, that's a problem." So that's when they self-reported the essentially, the wetlands violation back in December, and then it actually snowed. So we sort of delayed looking over there. So that was issue one. The other issue, the only issue that was probably even brought up is because there's 4 units in the building, and he's looking to rent out one of them to C3, which would be a marijuana dispensary. And that whether or not that's approved is not in this commission's purview. I did ask about parking, and on the other side of the building, here, let me screen share some stuff.
Hey, John, Keith just jumped on. You want me to promote him?
Yes, please. Yeah. Hi, Keith. You're muted.
You muted.
Well, he's figuring that out. Let me screen share.
Can Robin unmute him? She's muted too, so whatever.
So this is a
Mhm.
basically a Google Maps of the site.
Yep.
The road comes down here. We parked there, and the building. This is Northbrook. Here's the Assabet.
Yep.
The marijuana dispensary would be over here, and this is the parking. And it actually looks like there's a fair amount of parking that would be available. My point being is it did not appear to me like they'd have to expand the parking area. So I don't think that will come up as a Conservation Commission issue. The issue is that, Keith had ground up some stuff and spread some wood chips along this. There's a bank here, around there. And then, John Rockwood from Ecotech said, well, that was not a good idea. So they self-reported, and I went up there, and their proposal is essentially that we issue an enforcement order that allows them to pull the wood chips back using, putting down they'd have to put down some erosion control, then using a bucket and just pulling it back and removing it or putting it in a different area and just getting it, pulling it back away from the wetland again, which seemed reasonable to me. There's a second issue though which is not new, and that is this corner here of the parking lot slopes down, and because of the recent rainstorm, you could see that there had been erosion. The water just flows right off the parking lot right down into Northbrook. So there's sort of this need for a stormwater management system. Again, because this building's been here for so long, this was not an issue back decades ago. If it was built now, there would absolutely be some sort of mitigation plan for a stormwater management system. So, if the other boards allow for this thing, then essentially that it would be, any work other than just pulling back the wood chips would have to involve dealing with a stormwater management issue. So that, and I mentioned that this is something that probably needs to merit a permit as opposed to just an enforcement order. The reason one of the reasons I said is this isn't something that Keith did. This has been here. He bought the building a year or two ago, and this is something that's been here for quite some time, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So what seemed reasonable to me is that we issue an enforcement order, and that allow them to pull this back, put down some wattle there, pull this back, remove the chips. And he wants to put and then John suggests putting in some wetlands mix, with some erosion netting, and then Keith wants to put some rocks there so people just stay away from it. I mean, they look like they really want to do the right thing, which is great. So it seemed to me that it would be reasonable for that to be under the enforcement order. The enforcement order would specifically not address this issue, which will probably need to be dealt with at some point if any other issues move forward. So what are people's thoughts? Keith, are you unmuted? You muted, I see. Do you have anything you want to say? Was I summarizing correctly?
Are you guys able to hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, no, I appreciate your time today, John, just taking a look at things. Yeah, it would be our wish to, obviously, as soon as we're able to restabilize the soil, be able to just clean up, tidy up under an enforcement order. And I believe John would give you guys a a write-up or a description of what we would do, kind of mark up the plan for you and present it to you prior to anything being done, if I understood correctly.
Right. We would issue an enforcement order, and then probably John would write up, not me, John, but John Rockwood would write up something that and then you'd want to take a look at the silt erosion control barriers.
Yeah.
So, this is my thoughts is that we would allow this work to proceed under, the guise of an enforcement order as opposed to an NOI just for removing the wood chips. I don't think an NOI is necessary for just pulling back the wood chips.
Yeah, which I think I would appreciate, and I think it might be able to speed the process up. But again, just trying to clean up the property further and fix, kind of the wood chip spreading I had completed myself. That drainage issue you brought up is something that, as long as I'm able to, we can kind of develop a plan at another point and tackle that under a notice of intent if we need to.
Okay. Do people have questions or thoughts?
That sounds fine to me. It's actually, I know the state is actually revised their stormwater management requirements, and I know certain towns are being forced to change their stormwater management. Actually, I own property in another town who now the town had to put an assessment on to fix their stormwater management. I don't know if Berlin, I don't think has been notified yet by the state, but towns are being notified by the state of not having a stormwater management plan.
So making it more strict, you mean?
Strict or compliant. I'm not sure I understand the full details. I know some towns are having issues with their stormwater management. They don't have a plan on how they control their stormwater. So if they don't have a plan in place, they're being required to submit one with the state.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts about the enforcement order?
No,
I just
I'm
have
good with it.
one question.
Sure.
One question about and it's probably rhetoric at this point, but if this goes through, I think grow facilities use a lot of electricity and I think a lot of water. I assume this has a well, and whose jurisdiction is it if they suddenly need to pull a whole bunch more water and it's that close to our rivers? Is that us, or is that Board of Health, or?
Geez, I don't know. It didn't even occur to me. Keith, is there a septic or a sewer there?
So the facility that is trying to be permitted is actually going to be a retail facility. So it will not
a grow place, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it will not be a grow facility. There's not going to be, fertilizers, odors, like that type of thing. But so that you guys know, we are on a well, which is one of the things I pointed out to you today, John.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry. Yeah.
And we are also on a septic system.
Yeah. But you're right.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter if you put in what kind of shop you put in there, because it's not a grow facility.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other thoughts or questions?
Nope.
All right, good. So Keith, I'll issue an enforcement order. I'll mail it to you and send a copy to John. Again, it's not like there's a time pressure, because it would be better to wait a few months anyway, for growing season.
Perfect. But I'll basically get John starting to do, his narrative and his plan, so that we are ready to present to you at the right time.
Perfect. The only thing, let me just double check that I have your address. Did you email me your address or just?
So there is no mailing down at Banner Road. At the bottom of my email would be my home address.
Let me just. Got it. Okay. Oh, you live in the middle of nowhere. No, that's somebody else. I'm sorry.
I'm right on Pleasant Street.
No, I was looking at Garrett Horsfalls.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't have your address. Just email it to me.
Oh, yeah, I'll send you another email then. But yeah, my home address, I'm right here on Pleasant Street, number 96.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, that's good enough. All right.
But I'll give you all the details.
You said 96 Pleasant, right?
Yep.
All right. Probably bike by your house on a regular basis.
Yep.
All right. Thanks a bunch, Keith.
All right. I appreciate you guys' time tonight. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Keith.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Good night.
Good night.
All right. That's cool.
Gee, those bikers go everywhere, don't they?
I know.
Ah.
It's like a plague.
Worse.
Yeah. Well, that's my road bike, though. I'm almost home when I'm going down Pleasant Street. I'm almost home. You know. So, all right, good. I don't have any new business other than everything we already discussed. Wetland bylaw, I think we're supposed to be on the agenda for the select board for the 25th, although that hasn't been confirmed with me yet. So, which is next week. So we're going to talk about the wetland bylaw and also the Pan Am rail thing. And I probably will also mention that we should start percolating about getting a conservation agent. So somebody else can run around and do all the mailings. All right, so there's that. And Carol's not here.
What do other boards do? Are they running around getting signatures?
I don't know, actually. Robin may know better than I do. Stop, unmute yourself there, kid.
Yeah.
How,
Yeah, you.
yeah, you work on this from the other end, from National Grid, right? How are other conservation commissions managing all this stuff?
I have no idea. Usually we have a wetland specialist that does all that stuff for us, so I have no idea what they do.
I mean, there are legal ways to do signatures online. I mean, DocuSign and that kind of stuff. There are ways.
I will say, I do think we've done better than other ones. Like I know on a project over in Grafton, like last spring, they weren't doing anything for months. You know, like the governor issued that order, they did nothing for months. So.
Steve, I asked repeatedly about electronic signatures and I got nothing. There's nothing. It was weird. It was just like nothing.
Because I know real estate, you can do electronic signatures.
I know. I got no guidance. I asked multiple times. I got no guidance. So I was left with this. At this point, I'm just waiting it out.
Wow.
Yeah, now that you say that, I have no idea what they do. I'll see if I can find out.
Yeah, I don't know. But hey, I got my vaccine on a week ago.
Yeah, you look
my
different.
First shot.
Yeah, you look different.
All my hair fell out.
Yeah, I know. Gee. It's the second one that people are starting to say, "Oh, ouch."
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I definitely noticed the first one. I felt a little fuzzy.
Yeah.
I felt like my immune system was doing something.
You're used to that.
Yeah. It changes your RNA. Yep.
No, it does not. Stop saying stuff like that. The rail trail. So I don't know if we have any particular updates about the rail trail thing.
I was curious about. I saw that email that you forwarded from Walter. I was curious how that meeting came about, Walter.
Well, Pete called me. Turns out I knew this guy from way back in the late 80s on something relative to wildlife and UMass. But anyway, he wanted to come out and walk it. So I said, all right, let me tell you up front. First of all, it seemed to me he wanted to get an afternoon out of the office is what really motivated it. But anyway, Franny Hodge came over and we hopped in a car and went to all the road crossings and talked about this and that and the 5 corners, and nothing came out of it except that he said that Department of Transportation probably wouldn't be ready to build a bridge over the 5 corners for at least a decade.
Yeah.
It may be 15 years, but other things came up that were sort of interesting. You know, if we just get a vote of the town to accept the idea of the rail trail, then they would give the town a license, give the Conservation Commission or the town a license to do something with the section from the Hudson border up to Highland Street or even Coben Road if we wanted to. And Pete said that the number of places that once they do that, there's no problem in finding a contractor, even if the steel prices are down, I guess, that pour the rails, come in, do away with get the rails up, do away with the old rotted ties, grade out the bed, cut the trees and everything they need to do to get through it. And then I guess the sequence would be cut all the brush along it, pull up the rails and the ties, rough grade it out at no cost to the town, just for the value of the rails. So that could, and once you do that, show some action, the state boost you up on their priority list rather quickly in the way of grants and stuff like that. The other thing is, if we were to buy the 10 acres plus that Pan Am owns, it costs about 100,000, of which we would get 80% reimbursement from the state very easily. We want to make sure of that first, of course, but that seemed to be a given. So for $20,000, we would have everything from the Five Corners to the Clinton, and then a couple of key spots along the trail. If, in walking it too and looking at it, again, one of the biggest opponents to this, there would be a way of moving it 85 feet further away from their beautifully restored house, and put up barriers and to, take care of that particular issue. So anyway, that's basically what came out of it. So the key, I think step one is get a vote of the town to go along with this. Once that happens, then we can roll up our sleeves and start negotiating and talking with the state, getting a permit, and see if we can find a contractor at no cost to really rough that out.
Well, what do we have to do to put a plan together for? What do we have to do to put a plan together to bring this in front of the town?
I think that when the town voted for it 20 years ago or whenever, the concept carried itself. I mean, rail trails are so popular. The idea is, I think if we tell the town we have a rail trail, get it all roughed out at zero cost to them, and then go in the next step, that's when the state steps in and puts in the big money to really widen it up to 10 feet or 8 feet. And I want to keep it to 8. And so it isn't a great deal of cost to the town. The state handles it.
So did he give you any names of companies? I feel like we can't go to the town with just, well, we think we can do this, we think we can do that. And since none of us, the rest of us, were there at this meeting and to hear all this, like, I have no idea how to move forward with this.
Oh, Robin, I
Yeah.
think what happened when it went to the town, the reason that the town was so opposed to it is they felt that when it was brought to their attention, the end of the line was going to be Five Corners, or at the time. And then, so people would come and park by either the Unitarian Church or down by Five Corners, and then it just people would be riding, using these trails behind people's houses, and they just were really opposed to the fact that it didn't have any intention of going any further than Berlin. And that was the biggest beef, right?
It's a total statewide trail that they're at. And they're not wanting to piece it together. They're moving along. Hudson's moving along. They're working on their end of it. Looks like Sudbury Wayland are going to get theirs done. So this is the top priority. The governor really wants to see this happen too. And I think there'll be money thrown at it.
So how do you?
I mean, I think it's important to dot the I's and cross the T's, but you got to have some sort of vision and sell it. Step one is getting permission to do it. We can't spend any money of the town without another vote of the town meeting. So we're not being handed carte blanche to go ahead and do this thing. So I think we're having that trail it's functional from the Hudson line, at least to Highland Street. There's plenty of parking there. And there's also a place on Walnut Street that were taken by eminent domain that would park a dozen cars. And then there's a parking lot right there beside 495 that take 40 cars. So that's not a problem. And we could end it either at Highland Street, or if we go to Colburn Road and utilize the old county road, which we can, that would cross Colburn Road and stay on the north side of the railroad. So we wouldn't even have to buy anything from the MBTA. Let them keep it. We don't want to be in people's backyards anyway. And go all the way up there. And there's a big loop up on conservation-owned land that would be, you know, they could turn around and come back again. After that, you know, maybe the next step might be if we can buy up the Pan Am land from the Boylston Road Bridge all the way to Clinton, we could temporarily put a path up around on that piece of land that the solar farm just bought from Lucy, and go down into Randall Road and then back down West Street, up Lincoln Street, and then join onto it and continue on through Clinton. And they're moving ahead with, by the way, looking for estimates on fixing the tunnel, which isn't going to take much fixing. It's stressing it up more than anything else. And that would be plan part B, and then part C would be, and if we got that far, this 10-year thing could be even shorter before the state would kick up a couple $1 million and put a bike bridge across the 5 corners, which is what they want to do eventually.
So, like, short term though, what's the plan? What's different now than was different than 5 years ago when it was shot down? Like, what's your plan for pitching it to the town now?
The plan is to do some campaigning. I mean, I don't think anybody did anything. Put it in there. I expected there to be a campaign going, but you run it like you want to run somebody for selectman. You have to get out, you have to make calls, you have to identify people, and you have to get it elected. That's basically what you want to do, because the opposition would certainly be generating all kinds of false rumors, and we just went through a national campaign like that, and we want to win it. Campaigning is the key here.
But so you were just talking about trying to, you know, skirt a particular property owner. What are we going to do when every abutter wants that?
Not every abutter wants it, and we're skirting other abutters by going on the old county road on the opposite side of the railroad as all those houses along West Street from the gas station up to the 5 corners. After that, there's hardly any houses and back roads.
Mm-hmm.
So, Walter, one thing, what was this guy's name that came out again?
Peter Sutton.
Make sure that he loops Robin in with some of this stuff, though, because she's the one who's able to put together all the details. So, you know, if he comes out again, make sure, I mean, it's really important that he communicates with Robin.
Yeah, so like this kind of came out of the blue, and like none of us, you know, we've all been talking about the rail trail and none of us were invited. So it's hard to move forward on stuff that we don't know the details on.
You just got the details, so let's move forward.
So I don't know what to do to get this on the town warrant. Like what, you know, we
That's
need
the mechanic.
maps, we need.
Well, you have to, the warrant, I think, is closed for this year, unfortunately. It seemed ridiculous. It's so far off. I get a warrant together. If the selectmen would approve it Monday night, I get an article in there with a group of people and we get it passed at the town meeting. I know we could.
But you're talking about routes that go off the trail. So like, we don't have any plans for that. Like, I don't know.
We own the land. We own the land.
What is it, conservation land?
Yes. And it's state land.
So it should be easy to put a map together.
Yeah, there is a map together.
Where?
All right, look, you call me up. If you want to get out, if you're in front of this thing, do it. We need to get some work done. Throw these.
I agree, but I don't.
Sounds like you're throwing stones. I mean, it's all planned out. We're ready to go. This negative stuff, but this, but that. Have a vision, put it on the warrant, get it passed, and let's go for it.
I would love to,
You need
Walter.
a big vision, and you need some energy.
I agree. But I don't have any of the maps, all these plans that you're talking about. I don't know what the details are. to be able to do it.
You never call me up and ask me about it. I've got
Walter,
I've got
I didn't,
folders here.
Walter, I have the maps you gave me before, but I don't have any of the details from this meeting you just had.
I just told them to you.
Okay, but we need to go get it on a map.
Yep.
We need to be able to show the town where we're planning on going. I don't know where that is right now. So we
No
need to take that map and mark it out.
That's a half-hour project.
Okay, then let's
Okay.
do it.
Name your time and place.
I don't know. When are you free? I can't do this
Very
weekend, but maybe the next weekend.
I'm
All
very.
right, well, I can't do this weekend, but maybe next weekend. We'll find a time.
You know what the selectmen are on this town meeting? Is the warrant totally closed?
No.
I don't know.
It is.
No,
Closed.
the closed warrant you were talking about was for the town meeting that didn't exist.
For what?
It was for you're referring to the town meeting that was canceled. So, you know, the one that would be taking place late spring is not closed.
All right, we need to get working on this now. I've been working on it for 20 years. I'll give you all the information you want.
So I have a bunch of the old stuff that you gave me, but I just don't know what these, you know, you were talking about moving stuff off the route, and that we need to get it laid out in a map that we can share with the community.
Name your time and place.
Okay, we'll find, I can't do this week. So we'll find something maybe next week.
Let me know. You give me a call.
Okay,
And anybody
I will
else
do that.
that wants to put some time into it.
okay, yes, and if you get calls from these guys in the future, please loop us in on it so we can all go.
All right, cool. Well, that's the end of my agenda.
Louise has a question.
Yes, so we have Peter Sutton's name. I didn't catch who,
Department of Transportation, DOT.
okay.
Somebody needs to feed a cat
I know. I'm listening to it for a while.
or hug the cat.
Sounds like it might be Robin's.
No, it's not mine. I don't own cats. I have
I don't
dogs.
need-
I have
same
barking
here.
dogs.
Same. It's not mine. I only own a dog too.
I have 3 cats, but it's not my cats.
Not mine, don't have one.
Not mine.
My granddaughters.
Process of elimination.
There we go.
Crazy. It's worse than a barking dog, honest to God. It just meows and meows and meows. One time it caught a chipmunk, and I went out and it looked at me and it meowed, and the chipmunk fell out of its mouth and ran under a rock. It's crazy. Meows all.
Not a bright cat. Okay, all right. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Yes. So moved.
A
Is
second.
there- all
Third,
right.
fourth, and
Right.
fifth.
So roll call vote. Louise,
I,
John, I, Walter,
Right.
Steve,
I.e.
Robin,
Aye.
Liz.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
All right. Have a good
All right.
night.